All right. Well, welcome everybody that's tuning in later. But we were just actually discussing, and Anika, you were having some questions about the Amish that I wanted to be able to talk about, the Amish study that I came across. And yeah, yeah, I alluded to right before we started recording that they eat worse than what you would probably think of. So turns out that the Amish are eating what a standard American diet looks like to us. Things that come in packages, Pop Tarts, processed foods, highly just sugar. I mean, they're grabbing Pop Tarts, they're grabbing granola bars, they're grabbing everything too while they're out and working. Um, but what the study found is that men on average are getting 18,000 steps a day, and women on average are getting 15, 14,000 steps a day. And the amount of time they are spending on their feet is substantially more. So, really, what it came down to and what it breaks down to is that having that high energy flux is what I've been pushing on you guys lately. But this is where it comes from, is because it turns out you can fight off a lot of obesity and fight off a lot of the negative effects of your diet by simply just being more active, by simply walking more, is from what they have found. So now, of course, it would be better to clean up your diet at the same time and to being able to eat nutritious foods. But as far as the study goes, that is actually what they had found, is just that their obesity rates on average are around like 9% for men. Or I mean, not 9%, but their body fat percentage is around 9% for men and 25% for women, which isn't necessarily lean per se as like what the man relative to the man, because 9% for a man is pretty lean. That's where six pack's shown. That's where they're probably walking around on the beach. It's where most men would like to be right now. For women, they're probably looking more at like 18%. It's where they would like to be for the beach. But that's also, you got to take into account that Amish women on average are having 7 children on average. So, what's that do to the body is when you're having 10, 11, 12 children, yeah, you can't really compare apples to oranges there. So, as far as that goes, though, that makes sense. Though, as far as the Amish study kind of goes and what I came across, I can actually share my screen here. You guys have any questions over that at all?
No, but I would just say the key takeaway is just to move.
Yeah.
It's that neat.
As possible. Yeah.
So this is just an article I found on it. The Amish Paradox is written back in 2004. So it is a little bit of an older idea, but they're studying a pocket of Canada. I think I was even scrolling down here. Their obesity rates at 4%. So they do have some obesity, obviously, because some of their elders that are less active, someone that gets hurt in their community, their diet's still reflecting that, like we talked about, which then predisposes them to then obesity and everything else. So they still deal with that. It's just not as prevalent in their population. So I thought they were talking about somewhere in Ohio too, they were saying. So because we have a lot of Amish around our area as well. Indiana, Kentucky area. But Holmes County, Ohio, Amishmen in Holmes County had rates of obesity similar to non-Amish men. So that's just going to show that, people that live more in the community that has more access to it in different stores, especially Amish around here, because they'll work for our communities or they'll put in time. So they just have access to our foods and McDonald's and everything else. So, but if you guys want to read any more on that at all, I can send that over to you guys and you guys can check it out for yourselves. Sharing here. So that was what I had found this week, was listening to a podcast and heard that. I wanted to make everybody else aware. That way they understand the context behind why you guys are, or why I want you guys to walk so much and why I'm pushing such high steps. 10,000 is nice, but 12,000, 13, 14, because then you get that energy flux to where you can eat a little bit more leniently with and be more lenient inside your diet, which is what we want. So, yeah. And then the next thing I wanted to be able to talk about is just intensity. I think this has been on my mind and starting to build up over the last couple weeks as I see people in the gym. I don't know if it's just my area or just people around me that I've been seeing, but also just the idea surrounding intensity and the difference between training and working out. So I think it's something that a lot of people don't necessarily understand, and intensity is very hard to convey to someone, because how do you convey that I want you to go until you feel like you're going to die? I mean, that's a very hard feeling to get to, especially when someone has never pushed themselves that hard. But as far as intensity goes, no, I want you to feel like you're about to pass out, like the windows are shutting in around your eyes when you're squatting. And that when you're training like that, and when I tell someone, yeah, that's where I want you to train with intensity, that's the difference between training and working out. Whereas working out, you can go in, you can sit on the leg extension machine, and you can text on the phone, you can scroll through Facebook. If you're training at an intensity level of 10, you can't, you're going to feel like the muscle fibers and the insertion points of your quadriceps are going to be tearing off at the kneecap, because that's how heavy it is. And that's the best way I can kind of describe that difference is conveying, is that's really where, when you see people in the magazines, when you see people like, oh man, I don't understand why I can't get like that person in the gym. Well, sometimes it really does come down to, that might be the same workout, but what's the intensity level? You can control and you can manipulate it as much as possible as a coach, because I can tell you, hey, I want you to get to 2 reps before failure, and I want you to focus on this weight, so I can progressively overload you, and I should hopefully guess over time that the intensity is going up. But unless I'm there with you, seeing you struggle, because if I'm working with someone one-on-one, I can see them start to shake. I can see where the breakdown starts to happen, because it's not just a muscular shake, like, oh, my biceps tired. No, it's like a systemic shake. You start shaking it's uncontrollable.
Yeah.
You're starting to get tired and stuff. So I can see that. I can see when that intensity has been reached. And to actually get results and to push yourself beyond where you're at, you can't just go in and work out. Going through the motions is nice. You can always work out, but you can't always go in and train. So working out every day can be a thing. You can always do something every day where you're working out. You cannot train every day. You cannot train every period of your life. There's seasons for it. There's seasons where you can go in. Dieting season's a great time to focus your training. That's where you're going in and intensely working out. That's where you're intensely focusing on your diet, your nutrition, your protocols, your steps, everything. And then there's seasons for backing off of that, because you can't be at that intensity all the time. You can't be at that psychological intensity. You can't be at that physical intensity. You have to back off a little bit, because otherwise you're going to burn out. You're going to fry the system. And if you fry the system, you got to put a new system in, and it's just more work. So does that make sense though?
Nah, that actually makes a lot of sense. I was actually thinking about that today when I was, kind of going through my trigger session and stuff, like just slowing it down, really focusing, making that mind to muscle connect. Because I don't think a lot of people, when they're at the gym, they don't connect their mind to the muscle that they're working.
No.
And it shows, like, just like, and I mean, I'm not there to be everybody's form coach or nothing, but I just be like, man, they're kind of missing out. I mean, you're here, but if you had a more focused approach, you would get a lot more bang for your buck in the time that you're spending in the gym. So,
yeah, it's the intention behind it. I mean, it's
yep,
you play guitar. So, I mean, if you go in and you sit down with your guitar, you can sit there and slam down on the strings, and you can hit notes that you shouldn't be. Your bar can be sloppy. You can be letting up off the chords, or you can hit clean notes. You can hit close notes. You can pick them right. You can do it right. There's a right way to do it. Same thing with lifting. You can go in there and get the work done. You're not going to get any better. It's not going to sound good. It's not going to look good. But yeah, it's with everything. It's about your intentions. You do everything like it matters, like it's important to you. If you're not, then that's a place to ask why you're doing it. Some things get mundane, but the mundane is also where you're supposed to be living. That's most of your life. So if you're trying to skip out on the mundane, then you're missing a lot of the things that you should be living through. So,
I think for me, like it's mental. If I'm working out and in the workout it says 8 to 12 reps, like I'm thinking, okay, get 8 to 12, not get two two reps at the heaviest. Because then for me it feels like I'm not doing what the workout says to do.
Yeah. Best way that I have found is trying, and when you are first finding rep ranges, especially when you're going into a new block, new strength block, when you're going from 3 to 6 reps up to 8 to 12, up to 15 to 20, it's like, okay, what weight do I pick? I'm stronger than last time, so I can't really go off of last time, and then it is a little bit of guesswork, and that's why you have multiple sets, and that's why there's such thing as a top set. So when you're in powerlifting and everything, you have warm-up sets. You might do, 6 sets, but a powerlifter's 1 and 2 set is not the same as their 5 and 6. They're usually lifting more weight. They're adding weight, progressively overloading, and seeing what they can. But yeah, that's why there is also rep ranges. If you're hitting the top of that rep range, and if you're going outside of it, it's time to bump up the weight. It's time to actually progress the weight and move that up, so that if you're hitting 12, okay, well then you go up in weight. Oh, I'm hitting 11. Cool. We're in the rep range. Stay there. And then once you start hitting 12 again, maybe that's the next week you progress. You start with that same weight at that first set. Or the way I like to do it, since if there's 3 sets, let's say I do 40 on my top set for the last week. I'll start out with 35 on set number 1, 40 on set number 2. Then I'll progress to 45 on set number 3, or we'll stay at set number 3 with 40 and we'll progress the reps. Or we won't. Maybe that's where I have to end out this week. But now I've already progressed because set number 2 and set number 3 are at 40 pounds, whereas last week it might have been 30, 35, 40, and I've only had 1 set at 40 pounds. So you still progressed weight, you still progressed volume, but it's slow, it's incremental.
Yeah.
So that is the best way to push yourself, though. That's take your training to the next level. That's what, and especially being in a place where you're the opposite of Curtis, we're actually feeling your body. It's easier to train that intensity, because right now when you're drained and you're in a deficit, it's hard to really want to push yourself. But that's why you establish the mindset prior. That's why you know what you're going into. That's why you go in expecting, I'm going to be drained. I'm going to be tired. I'm going to be kind of like that. So you can figure out your playlist. You can find your pre-workout. You know what the routine is going to be going into your next couple of weeks. And that way, whatever you have to do, if that's sit in a cold shower for 5 minutes and listen to death metal and Disturbed and everything you hear at a haunted house come October, if that's what you got to listen to get ready, sure, do it.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Or Ariana Grande, there's no judgment, but just get pumped.
Whatever it takes, right?
Whatever it takes. It's either Disturbed or Ariana Grande. There's not a lot of in between. I guess got Tom Petty, but more of a post-workout. So I'm going to stop the recording here for everybody